So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Vaion Federal Webinar. I'm Jesse Gallo, and I'm accompanied by Yogin Patel, and we're part of the Vaion Federal team that's headquartered here in the Washington, D.C. area. So the goal for today is to just introduce an idea, introduce a thought that may shift and change the way you think about video surveillance and your expectations of video surveillance. Our thought, and we believe video surveillance should be more about not focusing on understanding an event after it has occurred, but really stopping that specific incident from occurring. We believe surveillance shouldn't be all about seeing an incident as it has happened, but rather focusing on it, stopping it while it happens, or preventing it from happening. And so when you do that, when you're able to understand the incident and stop it before it happens, well, at that point, now you're able to have what we like to call proactive decision making. Or another term would be situational awareness. And at Vaion, our goal is not to introduce you to new cameras and BMSs or different storage platforms or even analytics. And we have that, and we certainly excel at that. But our goal is to provide you with, as I mentioned, a way to refine your decision making, as well as a way to enhance your situational awareness. So as I like to say and often use the term, see something, say something, because we're all familiar with that. In this situation, Vaion's enabling your cameras to see something and say something. So let's go ahead and jump right into the agenda. So today for the agenda, what we're going to do is I'll speak for probably less than 5 minutes. Then we'll have Yogin go through the full demo and show you all of the features that we have. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A session. And as I mentioned, I'll keep it relatively brief because the idea behind this was to mimic the experience that you would have if you visited our booth at ISC West, so a virtual trade show. And we know, being that it was in Vegas, the idea of you coming to our booth probably wasn't to hear me talk. It was to partake in our now famous vodka on Vaion event. And not sure what was said at this point to me that made us all laugh, but the idea was we look forward to having you join us in person. Once things open up, we look forward to the fun times and really introducing you again to Vaion. So let's jump right in. When we look at video surveillance as a whole and the complexities and the challenges and the obstacles that you faced, what we did is we purposely built Vaion in order to address that. And so we addressed really 3 main challenges. The first was complexity, and complexity from the install all the way down to the upgrade, which was in the past very difficult for you to do in the traditional video surveillance platforms. The second challenge that we overcame for you was really based on the cybersecurity side of things, or the lack thereof. Many of the traditional manufacturers, either they didn't understand or prioritize surveillance, or they just decided not to use it. Where on the Vaion side, we have cybersecurity really running through our heritage. As a matter of fact, our secondary platform that we use, or our sister platform, is a insider threat cybersecurity platform that recently won a US Cyber Command competition. So we have a main focus around cyber. As a matter of fact, I know one of the things that has come up recently, specifically with the agencies, is the Chinese components. And from the very beginning, Vaion realized that, I'll use the word integrity because it means that much to us. From the very beginning, we realized that it was not, it would cause a great impact if we use Chinese components. So Vaion, as we came to be, as we created our product line, we have never and won't use any Chinese components. And so that was a big part of what we did, who we are as an entity and as a company. But the last challenge that I'll focus on is what we really want to speak about today. Is the theme of the session is really about this data overload, right? So data overload without any meaningful insight. And what does that mean? Well, If we look at the operator to the left, she's looking at 100+ cameras, which is standard in some of these large federal agencies that we work with. And if she was to miss one anomaly, right, one situation, then an incident would occur. And the reason that incident would occur is because it's impossible for us humans to see all of this at once. And so what's happening now is data overload coming in. And as we clearly understand this feedback that happens, an incident occurs. And so what does a manufacturer recommend? To add another 20 cameras per se. And so now not only is she looking at 100 cameras, now she's looking at 120 cameras. More overload, incident occurs. And as you can see, this reinforcing loop occurs, and it comes to a point where no incidents are ever resolved. And so Vaion's here to pretty much snap that reinforcing loop and to stop things such as this overwhelming amount of data with no context. We want to stop the limited real-time or proactive security that we're seeing, the inability to stop something that is occurring or that could occur. And then finally, making sure if something does happen, that it's not a full time-consuming a process behind it. And so what Vaion has created is, well, we've broadened and increased your visibility. And so when we look at the same concept of the operator on the left, we see that now not only is she looking at the 100 cameras, but she can be alerted of something that occurs. She can be notified when an incident is about to happen. And Yogin will go through these features in detail and demo them, but we've added a feature called Spotlight, which draws the attention to an incident and alerts an operator when something occurs. We have a feature called Smart Presence, which enables you to increase that proactive decision-making and the situational awareness, and again, increase that visibility. And then we have a feature called Smart Search, which enables you to accelerate the investigations from weeks and months of investigation to, as you'll see in the demo, more of the minutes and seconds. So when we put all that together, as I mentioned before, what Vaion is bringing is all about this situational awareness. And when we look at this quote, awareness is the greatest agent for change, we can actually break that into two different definitions. Not only does the awareness allow you to change what's occurring and stop an incident from happening, but it allows you to adjust to change, specifically in the times that we're going through now, when you may have to use your video surveillance system, not only for security, but for understanding how shuttered buildings are how people are reacting to shuttered buildings, or making sure that you're keeping the amount of people to a certain number or quantity within a specific building. So with that said, I want to pass this along to Yogin so he can go ahead and do a full demo and show you exactly what I was mentioning. Yogin, whenever you have a chance, feel free to grab the ball.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So hopefully everyone can see my screen share here. So again, my name is Yogin Patel. I'm a sales engineer here at Vaion, focused on both of our physical and cybersecurity businesses, particularly for the federal market. But I'll go ahead and just thank everyone on the line today for joining the webinar and giving us the opportunity to present the platform and present the capabilities that it has to offer. Relative to a lot of the other players in this market, Vaion's been around for a fairly short amount of time, really only having come to market around Q3 of 2019. But in that short time that we've been in the market, we've really worked diligently to create both a base VMS platform as well as an initial line of cameras with a fair amount of technical capability sort of right out of the box. We've developed this core solution, as Jesse mentioned, from the ground up, and we've done it without leveraging any componentry from China or even any other third-party software. So as a company, we've really been focused on trying to build a new video surveillance platform that, one, is very easy and intuitive for operators to access and use. 2 is interoperable. 3 sort of lacks the complexity of deployment and management, typically that you would see with products that have similar capability sets as ours. And then leverage machine learning and analytics right out of the box, primarily to significantly enhance an operator's situational awareness and provide greater degree of insight that you naturally just wouldn't get with the traditional VMS system. So to demonstrate how we're trying to achieve these 4 goals, I'll really touch on 4 key features of the product. And Jesse kind of mentioned those, but the first will be our video wall with Spotlight, which you see shared on the screen now, our smart presence capability, smart search, and then I'll wrap up with our final sort of configurable rule-based alerting features as well. So with that said, we've got the video wall showing here on the screen. Again, this is delivered to the end user in clientless fashion, really to the operator's workstation, using just Google Chrome. Right. This again goes back to the whole theme of easy accessibility. Any workstation that is on the VMS's network, as long as you're running Google Chrome, you're simply going to go to the web address of that server, and you'll be able to access this full-featured client. There's no special client hardware needed. There's no special software, no special plugins, no additional utilities or anything like that needed to really utilize it or even to configure it. Now on the screen, you see our default 2x2 view. Which of course, this is something you can customize to your liking. You can change it to whatever preferred layout that you'd like. But one of the unique things that I'd point out here is how we provide the historical timelines right within the video feed or on the video wall itself. So if you look really closely at the video feeds and look towards the bottom, you'll notice that we've got a timeline right here. I can actually hold my mouse over that timeline and see thumbnail images of historical video. I can even go ahead and scroll that timeline back and get playback of historical video as well, right? So you can quickly review all of this recorded video sort of from one spot. You don't necessarily have to jump to a separate tab, a separate application, or anything like that. So again, just goes back to our theme of ease of use. So beyond these minor UI features, what I really want to draw your attention to is how the video feeds are sort of cycling through in this 2x2 view. So let's say you're monitoring a large facility, maybe you're monitoring an entire campus, maybe a critical infrastructure site. You might have hundreds of cameras installed all throughout the property. With the traditional VMS system, you'll typically see video feeds kind of cycle through sequentially on the monitor, or you just might have a massive video wall where all of these video feeds are just shown all simultaneously. But oftentimes, when you do have the system cycling through these video feeds, you'll see feeds that just don't matter. You'll get cameras on empty hallways. You'll get cameras on emergency exits, places where you really have little activity. And when you have a whole lot of uninteresting feeds being shown, this may subsequently lead to an operator to pay less attention to the activity on the screen and potentially miss some event of interest. And so this is where our Spotlight feature really comes into play. So what we've done is we've baked in a little bit of intelligence into the platform to allow it to pick and display video feeds that may be of interest to the operator. Overall, just to help reduce that operator fatigue. So the platform on one hand is going to bring to your attention any feeds where a rule that we've put into the system has been triggered, and you'll see some of those feeds sort of pop up here on the screen highlighted in red. I'll speak a little bit more about how these rules are constructed further on in the demo. But in addition to rule-based triggers, the platform will also highlight feeds where anomalous activity is detected, which are some of these feeds that you see highlighted in amber. And when I say anomalous activity, what I'm really looking at are 3 different things. So one, we will report to you any sort of unusual time of day type of anomalies. So we'll highlight anytime we detect activity of a person or vehicle in an unusual place or time. The second thing we do is highlight directional anomalies. So we do a little bit of analysis on the frame that the camera has. We'll tend to understand the direction in which people or vehicles typically move within that frame. And then we might trigger on a person going in the wrong direction. So for example, if you've got someone sort of trying to jump over a turnstile and come in the opposite direction of a security checkpoint, maybe someone is attempting to enter the facility through an egress, or perhaps there's just a vehicle driving on the wrong side of the road. In any one of those types of cases, again, the VMS will highlight that video and bring that to the operator's attention. And then finally, something that's actually unique to Vaion. What we can actually do, if you're leveraging our line of cameras, is we can do unusual or anomalous sound detection as well. So we can do sound analytics right at the edge on the camera. And so if you leverage our cameras, if there's any sounds like screaming or gunshots or anything of that nature, we'll be able to report that back to the VMS. So these cameras that we provide have these built-in 4 microphone arrays, and they can detect those unusual sounds. They will report that data back to the VMS, and because it is a quad microphone array, we could do a little bit of math and engineering on the back end of it, and actually do a little bit of latency analysis to figure out the approximate direction from which those sounds are coming to. So in addition to the signal of the sound, we're even sending directional information back to the VMS and immediately reporting that to the operator and bringing that to their attention. So again, the goal overall of incorporating the spotlight capability into our video wall is to reduce that information overload on the security operator. So rather than having to actively pay attention to hundreds of feeds, we want to let the platform really do the legwork and help bring interesting feeds to the operator's attention. And this ultimately enables security teams to spot potential threats quickly and take action proactively to prevent further escalation of that threat. Now, I'd like to go, since I have the video wall open here, I'd like to go a little bit deeper technically and talk a little bit about our object detection capability as well. So I'll just go to the bottom here and enable a couple of extra layers, which will show you the bounding boxes in the video frames as well. But if you look closely at each video feed now, what you'll notice is that the system is actively detecting people and vehicles, which are identified by the bounding boxes placed around them. So you'll see blue boxes around people that we detect, and you'll see purple boxes around the vehicles that we detect. So we leverage the latest in computer vision technology. We've built and incorporated these convolutional neural networks to do object detection in real time and at scale, all sort of right out of the box. So note that you don't need any sort of additional licensing, hardware, special cameras that do analytics at the edge, plugins, etc., really reducing the complexity of being able to leverage this capability. So we've incorporated and trained these networks with over 3 million labeled images to identify and classify people and vehicles, along with certain characteristics associated with them. And as these objects are detected within the video streams, we record all of this metadata in a separate channel along with the recorded video. And this is fundamentally what enables a lot of the other capabilities and features which you'll see further on in this demo. And going back to our theme of interoperability, we have designed the platform from the ground up, again, to ingest video feeds from just about any camera. So you can leverage our own line of cameras, our own VCams, or you could use any third-party ONVIF conformant camera, and we will still be able to provide this level of object detection and capability and analytics. So at the end of the day, if you've made a significant investment to deploy cameras throughout your facility and they do the job, you don't necessarily have to upset what's already in place to leverage the object detection and analytics capabilities, which I'll show you here in the platform. So to quickly show you, where this object detection stuff sort of becomes useful, I'll redirect your attention again right back to the timeline. So if you look at the timeline down below, you'll notice that in the timeline itself, we've got varying peaks of color. So this is the platform actively identifying where we are detecting any sort of activity with a vehicle in blue, or sorry, in purple, or any activity with a person, involving a person in blue. So as an example, let's just say that I have an incident involving a break-in on a vehicle sitting in my parking lot overnight. On a traditional VMS system, I'll go back and pull 8 to 10 hours of motion recorded video. I'll have to fast forward through all those feeds and try to find the exact moment when someone walked up to that car, broke the glass, stole the object, and ran away, right? And then for more context, I'm going to have to do the same thing with additional cameras that I've got tied to the system to find out where this person went after they stole that object. Well, with a smart timeline like this, I can immediately just look at an 8 or 10 hour period. I can see when there was activity involving a person or when there was activity involving a vehicle, and then I can simply just scroll the timeline back to that period in time and immediately see what was going on at that moment, right? So coming back to our fourth goal that I initially mentioned in developing this platform, this is just a brief peek at how Vaion is really leveraging that artificial intelligence and machine learning to simplify the use of the VMS to really enhance the situational awareness of the operator, and even speed up the whole investigative process so that we can address incidents very quickly. Now, with that said, I'll jump into our map view capability, or our smart presence feature. All right, so here, in our smart map feature, rather, we have the ability to upload two-dimensional images of building aerial shots or images of building floor plans, and then we can overlay those images with cameras installed in their respective locations. So once all of this is set up, the map really gives you a consolidated view of your facility with an easy way to sort of see these camera feeds, to get context on where they're coming from. I can easily just click on one right here on the map, and I can get a live view of what's being picked up on that camera. And bear with me a moment, some of this was running a little bit slow because I do have a poor Wi-Fi connection here. But with that said, similar to the video wall, what we'll also do is, as you'll notice, some of these cones will also change in color anytime we detect anything unusual, whether it's an anomaly or whether it's a rule-based trigger. But again, even the live map will bring to your attention that something suspicious is going on. And as I showed you before, you can go ahead and click on one of those cameras to go ahead and see what might be going on. Now, you can upload a variety of maps. You can get creative in the way that you link them together. We even give you the ability to overlay these maps with additional icons, kind of like the one you see here, the small one in the center. So you can identify important objects on the map, things like AEDs, extinguishers, emergency exits, elevators, so on and so forth. But here in this example, I've got an aerial view. This is our Uxbridge office. It shows you where our cameras are sort of laid out on the exterior of the building. But I can, as I said, also go ahead and upload interior floor plans, kind of like this one, and show you how the cameras are all sort of laid out on the inside. Now, more importantly, because we have built-in object detection, one really neat thing that we can do is show you a real-time view of where we detect people or vehicles within each camera's field of view around your facility. So now you don't have to look at each camera feed now to find out where people are, where vehicles are. We're showing you that dynamically right here on the live view. And this feature tends to be one of the most, I'd say, compelling features for our customers. It's really a great example of how we're leveraging analytics and AI/ML to enhance situational awareness and reduce the information overload on the operators themselves. If you're part of a large security team, you're responsible for monitoring a large facility, campus, critical infrastructure site, whatever it might be, you don't necessarily now have to monitor and pay attention to every individual camera feed. The live map view will give you that broad situational awareness all in a single consolidated view. And from here, if you spot a person or a car or something unusual going on in the facility, you can click on that person or you can click on that vehicle, and then the platform will show you, a quick thumbnail, sort of digitally cropped video of that individual or that vehicle that we detect there. So this capability, again, can be very useful in a variety of scenarios, right? Particularly emergency response type of situations. If we've got a scenario, active shooter type of situation, maybe we've got a fire in the building, some other sort of hazard in the facility, this view would give an emergency responder a quick, quick overview of whether or not people are still in the building, and if they are, where they might be and how they're moving around. And on top of all of this, given that we've got the audio analytics built into the cameras, anytime we trigger, an audio signal like a gunshot, screaming, glass break, or anything of that nature, we'll also paint an additional cone right on the map, giving you the approximate direction from where we're picking that sound up from as well. Now, with all of that said, going one step further, I'll go ahead down here and just turn on yet another layer. One other neat thing that we do within this live view is give you real-time people counts as well. So if you look down to the bottom right, it might be a little bit difficult to see in the screen share here, but down in the bottom right, we actually show you a live count of all of the people and vehicles that we see in this view that is up on the screen. Not only that, but we retain a historical record of all of these counts as well. So if I take my mouse and I simply just scroll over the timeline here, you'll notice that the counts are kind of changing over time. And then I can even go back and scroll that timeline back and have it play back to me what that map looked like, in that period of time in the past. So I can take this even a step further, do more analytical, do more analysis on all of this. I can take all of this historically recorded data, export them as CSVs, and sort of investigate over a period of time what my traffic patterns look like through an area. Like how many people walked through a foyer, or how many people went through a parking gate, or came through my facility entrance or security checkpoint, so on and so forth. So all of this information, can help us determine usage trends. It can help us identify occupancy trends, dwell times, traffic patterns, and all that around our facility. We can use that insight to enhance our operational efficiencies by finding better ways to utilize our space, by finding more efficient ways to optimize HVAC or lighting, right? We've seen a lot of interest with this even in the retail space, where they're interested in putting cameras down individual aisles to get a sense of where the foot traffic goes so that they can better position their inventory. So overall, no matter, whether you're using this in a hospital setting, whether it's a military base, a public facility, large critical infrastructure site, this feature alone helps provide, significantly more insight and situational awareness than your traditional VMS solutions. And beyond just doing a better job of helping you secure your facility, you can now leverage the same video surveillance solution that you've already got in place to get useful analytical insight into how your environment operates as well. So with that, I will now jump into our Smart Search feature. So before going through this, I think it kind of helps to preface this with a few use cases. So think about a situation, maybe we're in a hospital, maybe a VA hospital, and we've got an unattended patient. Maybe they happen to wander off somewhere in the facility. Maybe we're airport security and we've identified some sort of luggage or package or something that's been left behind in the terminal that looks suspicious. Or maybe, we just had some valuable asset in our facility that was stolen. Well, these are just some high-level examples of where the Smart Search capability can come to be quite useful in terms of getting to the bottom of an incident very quickly. So for the purposes of this demo, I'll show you an example that we have in the system. And in this scenario, we had an expensive piece of equipment, particularly a monitor that was installed in one of our server rooms, and it was taken. And we just kind of wanted to go back and find out who took it and where. So the way that I would go about looking for this or conducting sort of that investigation, I'd start by doing an appearance search. So the appearance search allows me to build a query to look for any sort of object, particularly a person or vehicle. I can attribute certain characteristics of color with them too. So if I know the person was wearing a red shirt and blue pants, I can identify that. Or a vehicle if I know its color. In this case, I don't know what the person was wearing, so I'm not going to go ahead and pick any colors. But then I can go ahead and choose the cameras of interest, which is going to be my camera that I have in my server room, and then I'll define a period of time over which I want to conduct that search. So I go ahead, I click search, and you'll see within a matter of seconds, the platform spits back to me various clips of any time that it has detected an individual going in and out of that server room. I can hold my mouse over that clip and even get a quick playback of these people sort of walking in and around the room or whatever activity they're engaged in. But right off the bat, if you look closely enough, the very first clip that I see an individual that's got a monitor in his hands. Right, so right away, I've been able to positively identify this individual who's come in there and taken this monitor out. Now, taking it to the next step, I want to find out where this person went after taking this monitor. That's where our similarity search comes into play. So now I can take the video where I positively identify this person, add that up top, enable similarity search. I'll go ahead and broaden the set of cameras to the entire floor now, and again, run that search over the same time period. And now I'll see clips of this individual all across the floor, where he sort of came from, where he went to, so on and so forth. And as I'm sort of scrolling through this, there we go again. I can see a clip of him right there, again with that monitor. I'll go ahead, I'll blow that up, and the video will give me a bounded video showing me exactly where he's taken that monitor to. And you can see that he's taken it to his desk to use for himself, right? So from this example, hopefully you can see just how easily we can dig through all of this historical video. This example, again, just goes back to that fourth objective that I talked about in the beginning, and provides a clear demonstration of how we go above and beyond traditional VMS systems by leveraging this AI/ML. Right out of the box. And rather than having to deal with cumbersome processes and digging through hours of footage, we can leverage the technology to significantly simplify forensic analysis and reduce that time to investigate and respond to incidents. Now to wrap up this overall demonstration, I'll sort of go into our rules capability. Or rules-based alerting, I should say. So in the Smart Search panel, you saw that I could create a simple search query to quickly dig through historical video to identify, various events of interest. Well, with the rules engine now, I can take those similar search queries and convert them into rules to automate the detection of potentially suspicious activity and raise alarms to operators right away. So going back to that previous example of the monitor in the server room, this means I can now put a rule in place and have the system alert me anytime anyone just goes into the server room. That way I'm aware and can monitor right off the bat. But with these rules, I've got certain types of things that I can look for. One is the appearance search. So again, I can create rules around detecting people or vehicles in certain places and times. I can create rules that alert when I detect a particular sound. So gunshots, screaming, anything like that. I can put rules in place to detect loitering. So if somebody's loitering in the front of my facility, again, generate a rule for that. And then the other thing I can do is a line cross rule. And I'll just show you an example of that as well. So for example, just take this one here. What I can do with that is take an individual camera. I can draw a line right within the field of view of that camera, and any time an object passes through that line, and it could be in either direction, I can specify which direction, I can go ahead and have that alert me as well. Right, so anytime somebody's maybe walking in through the entrance of my facility or anything like that, I can go ahead and have it trigger an alarm on that. And then finally, we also have the ability to create alarms on counts too. So, going back to this whole COVID situation, now I can go ahead, I can specify a camera, I can select an area of interest or even draw a line in the camera's field of view and go ahead and say, anytime I detect more than 5 people or anything like that, to go ahead and alert me so that I know that I've achieved my occupancy max or something like that to maintain social distancing. So you can get quite creative with a lot of these rules. Now, when you create these rules, there's a few things that will allow you to do. So for one, in terms of generating an alarm, will allow you to do that right within the UI here. So any operators that are logged into the client here will be able to see these pop-ups show up in the upper right corner, and you might have been seeing them as I've been going through this demo. The other thing I can do is generate an email. And in that email, I can send it to an individual or I could send it to a group. But at the end of the day, the email will contain a timestamp, the label of the rule. It'll include a thumbnail image of what was detected. And then it'll even go a step further and provide a link for you that will allow you to basically just go straight to that video feed. And then finally, we have this webhook integration as well. And so this webhook capability, what this allows us to do is integrate in creative ways with third-party applications as well. So I'll give you an example of this. Here at Vaion, we're pretty heavy users of Slack. So what we've done is created a security channel, and anytime anyone goes in and out of our New York office, we'll have that webhook generate an alarm and send that into the security Slack channel. And in similar way that we get that email, we'll additionally get the rule's name, we'll get a thumbnail image, we'll get that hyperlink that will immediately take us right to that video feed in question. So that webhook is very open-ended. If you are a commercial user and you do have access to third-party capabilities like Zapier or IFTTT, things like that, you can always use those third-party solutions to do even far more creative things. And finally, anytime any one of these alarms are generated, of course, we will provide a running log of all of these alarms here. And I'll go ahead and I'll just show you an example of sort of what we're capturing. But anytime the alarm is triggered, what the system will automatically do is take that video feed, it'll bound it off to a period of interest. If I go ahead and blow this particular video feed up, you'll also see that it shows it side by side with the live map view. So it immediately gives the operator some context around where that feed is coming from. They can see the video itself, and then they can even see sort of the timeline with the object detection sort of peaks shown in there. Now with that, if I've looked at this video and I've determined that this is in fact something suspicious or malicious and I need to report this to my security team or report it to the authorities or something of that nature, I can very easily go ahead and export this clip as an MP4 file that is password protected and digitally signed. Or if I need to speed up the whole process of getting this out to somebody, I can even go ahead and share a link. right? So I can go ahead, the system will automatically sort of generate a link for me here, and then I can make that link disabled after a certain amount of time. I can password protect it, but as soon as I share that link with someone else and they go there, they'll immediately see the same video feed that I see here, bounded off the way that it is right now. So in conclusion, this is really just a high-level overview of the 4 key features of the Vaion platform. I hope that with this overview, you're sort of able to see the core capabilities that differentiate what we have to offer from traditional VMS systems. We've put a lot of time and energy into building a platform that's not just easy to use, but is also quite effective in enhancing your physical security posture, and also providing you with operational insights that you naturally just wouldn't expect from a traditional VMS system. And now with that said, I'll go ahead and I'll hand it back to Jesse. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Yogin. Really appreciate that in-depth demo. So everyone, I know we do have a hard stop at 11:45, so I do want to address a couple of questions, but just to recap what Yogin mentioned as far as what we're able to do, it's really all about that situational awareness and that proactive decision making. So Yogin's highlighted our spotlight feature, so alerting operators. He highlighted our smart presence, so the map view giving you that situational awareness. And then he also highlighted the smart search, so in investigating and accelerating the forensics. So Yogi, I think within the 5 minutes we'll have left, let's address a couple of the questions that we got directly. I think the first one, I'll throw it back to you as far as just the security of the platform. Obviously, with the agencies, that's a big deal. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, I mean, we as Jesse, you kind of mentioned in the very beginning, we are a cybersecurity sort of centric organization. So as we've developed a platform from the ground up, we've really been cognizant of making sure that we are doing the best job possible to protect any data that we're capturing. So any data that we have that's stored on the VMS, any data that is in motion, of course, that is all encrypted and protected using certificates-based encryption. And then, of course, anything that might be stored on the camera's end, anything like that, all of that stuff is secured end to end. Any communications that also take place between the VMS itself and the camera all occur using TLS and SSL. Everything is secured, even your connection back to the UI as well. So in general, without getting into the nitty-gritty details of all the algorithms and everything that we support, I would say that we leverage all of the common best practices that you see, in the cybersecurity arena today to make sure that we've delivered a very secure platform end to end.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. The other question that I can address is more on, is Vaion an on-prem or a cloud-based solution? And so the answer to that is both. I can jump on this one, Yogin. The answer is both. It's more of we have a hybrid approach. So while we can go and we'll go directly to the cloud with our cameras, and the cameras will have its own internal embedded storage, we also understand the requirements of the federal government. So we have a hardened appliance, which Yogin alluded to, that all of that data can be stored on-prem, or again, if we need to, we can go in cloud. We had addressed the other question that came up was, do we have any parts manufactured in China? We do not. So I guess another question we had, Yogin, was as far as the scaling and support. How do we handle the amount of cameras that, I'll let you go through it. How are we handling the scale of cameras?
Yeah, so given that we've taken an appliance-based approach, we're able to, or we've designed the underlying hardware to complement the software perfectly, to leverage all of the resources that are available on those boxes. We offer a variety of servers today. On the small end, we have the V500, which will do up to 16 cameras. And going up to the highest end, we have the V3000. And each one of these platforms, depending on your retention requirements and things like that, they'll have varying amounts of storage available. Up until on the highest end of it, we can do up to 160 terabytes on a single box. But with that said, that vServer 3000, that's going to do up to 200 cameras on a single box. And with any one of the platforms you go with, we'll be able to support not only the recording for all of those cameras, but we'll be able to do all the real-time analytics as well.
Fantastic. All right, so I know we do have a hard stop in 2 minutes at 11:45. So I guess I want to just thank everyone who attended, from our partners to our obviously our customers. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out to either Yogin or myself, or reach out to anyone via the Vaion website. Again, thank you for joining the Federal Trade Show, and we look to see you in the future. All right,
Thank you,
everyone,
everyone.
take care.